Peace. Peace. Okay. Surprise to me. Okay, so what is everybody doing? You know, there's some things that I want to speak about, but I don't want to speak about them. I think I ought to build with them with some of my other brothers. But I had this idea of my own agreements and disagreements, and you take it how you want. Knowledge, culture. I'm still going to do this activity of borning them. I still see the worth of freedom and refinement in the mathematics as checks and balances, what I call a supplemental word, checks and balances on this, to see that the culture has to bring true freedom and also can't just be unabashed freedom. They're checks and balances. That the power is always focused. It always refined to a particular target. You know, what's interesting is that people talk about refined flour. Refinement is about concentration, about focus. When we talk about refinement, let's say refined flour, it's a denatured application. Let's say refined flour, right? But what's really happening is that they're concentrating. The flour has already been denatured and has been, all of its germ has been taken out, the wheat germ. To then focus in there, right? Once that happens, they add nutrients to it. So they're focusing, right? They're literally spraying a nutrient solution, a concentrated solution of nutrients on top of the flour. In reality, it doesn't really work. You're not getting much out of that. You know what I mean? But that's really what refined flour is. Peace. Okay. So in essence, though, refining a flour is really the concentration of nutrients onto the batter of the entire flour batter. Just an interesting idea, because people talk about refined flour like it's been whitened and this and that, but when it's white flour and just whitened and denatured, it's just white flour. When you concentrate the nutrients and add them to it, then it becomes refined flour. So it's the focus of the nutrients being sprayed back on. Of course, not a useful process. Not really. It's really a wasteful process. Like, you're not really getting what you could have gotten out of it, right? But I just want to say these things because there was an idea. Give me a moment here. So today's degree in the 1 to 40 deals with the 85%. When is it time to teach them? When is it time to share with them? How far do you go in the mantle of leadership and building? This is something that's been on my mind for this whole month. It's for a conversation I had, though, with someone that I had very great disagreement with. And I come to find as a very deep individual, a lot of strong builds. And thankfully, and willingly on my part, certainly, we won't have that issue anymore, right? And, slowly but surely we take measures to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, during this conversation, there was things that were said that were very important, but things that I disagreed with in retrospect. It was a lot to take in. And I think people don't understand what doing the knowledge is. Our culture is doing the knowledge. So if knowledge culture all born's power, the way of the nature of our culture is how we do the knowledge. Our culture is an expression. It reveals the knowledge that we have. And therein lies the power that we have. But what I found interesting was that this person told me something that I just, with my life, I have to disagree with. It wasn't with just power firemen or culture freedom, nation of God's nerds. And I don't mean to belittle it, but I don't find those as to be the big issues that are made out to be. And I'm very disturbed because I'm reading, I'll tell you the book I'm reading. Anybody wants it, they can, email me. Show you right now. Okay, I'm reading this book of many. I'm reading many books. But there's a book by Tamim Ansari called Destiny Disrupted, A History of the World Through Islamic Eyes. Honestly, I've never really read detailed Islamic history, the religion, and how it deals with world history. And this book is great because it shows like a world history perspective, but through the Islamic reality, which is very useful. And because we use these words, because we take them to the highest level, email me, Kasim, peace God. Email me. I will send you this book because it's very good. And I did a lot of research and I collected a lot of books about history through the Islamic eyes. There's another one that I haven't read. I chose to read this one first. So I'm reading this one. These are big books, by the way. But there's another book called The Silk Roads. That one is kind of a history with that Islamic perspective. There's a lot of good books, and I could share many with you. But I'm reading this book. What's really bothering me is that a lot of the mistakes and infighting and the hell that the history of Islam has gone through, I could see it with us. And we're not a religion. We're not supposed to be falling victim to that. But as soon as you have a tradition that goes larger than a certain populace, it's almost like we're forced to be in that religion. Just very disheartening in my mind, that we could even get to this point this way, that everything could be no good if I have, let's say, refinement in my mathematics and use it in a way that isn't just synonym for culture, because it's not. It has a different context. It's a very, very versatile word. People that disagree sometimes, they'll salute my intellect as a person that has read for years and years, but then disavow it, though, with their own thought that isn't as detailed as mine. So, when it comes to these things, I think the biggest thing that I heard that I disagreed with was, and I'm not saying this to absolve my thing. I would venture for anyone that's here that listens to this video, and any trolls, anyone, the trolls that show up that really think they're doing something, the ones that, skim through 90 minutes of the video and say, well, he wasn't saying anything. I'm not going to waste my time after they spent 90 minutes. Not any of those, but I don't care who. Um, if they disagree with this point here, I'm not sharing it to absolve my reality. I'm sharing it because I really think that this is the way, and that this is the way that anyone that's listening to this ought to do this. Anything. The this that I'm talking about is anything. Someone thought that their main disagreement they had was that I had taught too early in this classroom because I didn't build with every single elder that existed. They're correct. I did not build with every single elder that was alive. Many people from mostly everybody from Mecca, other boroughs. I didn't get everybody in Medina. I got certain peoples, La Shasha, Infinite Al Jamar, select individuals, Freedom Allah. Some of these people were dismissed as not really the ones. Of course, I disagree with that, but I was listening. I was listening. Their main disagreement that comes about with that is that even if I had built with every single individual possible, peace, God. Even if I had built with every single person possible, that at my young age, I was 24, 23, no, 24 when I started to teach here. That responsibility was too heavy to represent this entire nation through this school at such a young age. Not only was I taught that this was the way to do things, that we pass the baton on to the youth. Now, it doesn't matter if I say that for at least 10 years, it was on the job training, rigorous training. Here are other days, spending time with elders outside of the classroom, away from the school, making sure that I can conduct myself in such a manner that can educate anyone that comes in here on some level of what this nation is. Being prepped in a way that is different than just the 5% that's going to go out in the street. No matter what anybody says, I was educated differently, for the good or for the bad. I was deliberately educated to teach in this classroom. Is it possible that I didn't build with everyone? Absolutely. Is it possible that I didn't build with everybody that I had the opportunity to? That had given me the opportunity to on those two levels? And the answer is no. Everyone that invited me to the cipher, I had built with. Okay? And now we have different Sunez now. We have Sunez that's 20 in this 25th year of teaching here. I have developed an entire pedagogy, a style of teaching, a self-styled wisdom, something that I am willing to show and prove at any moment. But it is something that has absolutely cannot be discounted as something that wasn't there before. So I certainly took on the mantle to innovate while I preserve what was given to me. And see, I think a lot of the things is that when people look at what I was doing and what I am doing, this preservation of sorts isn't happening by just repeating the party line. It is very challenging. I have challenged things every step of the way to develop it, to show and prove that it's right and exact and whatnot. But I say all this though to just start off with this build. I'll be here till 8 o'clock. That it's important that there is no time to take the opportunity. There is no moment to take the opportunity. If you see that you're not ready, then you don't take the opportunity. Then you didn't have the opportunity. But if the opportunity is there and you take it and you go all the way in, it's the only way to do it. And I don't think that there's an age for us to be building here. I showed and proved that. You know, another thing that was added to me, that they felt that I was too early to teach here, too young to teach here. Didn't build with everybody, but I built with everyone that's ever taught a class here that was alive. And at a certain time, though, many of the other elders felt that that was sufficient. But what's most important, right, when we look at all of this stuff here, right, is that we were taught to pass that baton to the young. And then when we pass it, can't complain about how it's dealt with, especially if there's good guidance, good mentorship, and so on. I just think that I don't know if there's anything that I've ever been able to do successfully that I got into it and said, I'm officially have mastered this, and now I can start doing this. Because you know what was told to me was that even if they themselves, this person, had gotten built everybody possible and was prepped to do this, they wouldn't have done what I did. That it was too much, and that they don't even teach people nowadays because too many of them quit while they're going through the 120. You see, and that's the thing though, see? If I had taught here and waited for everyone here to show and prove by quoting all of 120 and not just teach for that person, for that individual at this particular moment, I would have taught nobody. And we have to take that lens differently. We have to take charge of things and not seeing the results that we want, but the results that could possibly happen is worthwhile. When I teach someone anything that I find that could be useful to them, it is that if I taught it and shared it in a way that they could understand it, then the possibility of them being able to use it righteously has already opened up. And because that possibility has opened, the success of it cannot be graded by whether they do everything that I would like them to do, whether it be all of math, all of 120, do this, do that. But at the most basic foundation, they were able to get something useful, and that we were able to give someone something useful at this particular moment, that there is really no other goal that could be achieved. And I've taken it as that that mentality has been mine. You know? And I'm saying to everyone that I had maybe about 10 albums of music, not just hip hop, of music, albums. 10. 15. Let's go 15. Which is poultry. When I started writing at Vibe magazine, I knew this was insufficient. I knew that I hardly knew anything, but I knew exactly what I needed to get. And I knew that there was other things that I didn't even know that I didn't know. But by encountering everything that I know I need to learn, I'd eventually catch up. You see? And so I wasn't a writer until I started writing. So I had to have the goal to write at certain moments when I'm not a writer. Think about that for a minute. I had to write as a writer when I wasn't a writer. Kasim, you said I had a situation where a brother said we shouldn't use Allah in our name and started quoting Islamic literature to me, but I'm like, God, we are not Muslims, so miss me with that. I would have asked them how old were the elders when they spread the knowledge throughout the NYC. Yeah, yeah, absolutely on everything. I mean, there's just no way of waiting. Our lessons go contrary to all of this. We won't sit up waiting for a mystery. I really just, in my heart, I know that, and I'll be frank, a lot of people that say certain things, they would like to dismiss it because they want to look at it that I got some kind of light skin privilege, which, by the way, if that rule were a rule in this nation, is backwards, okay? It's the opposite, okay? There's many people wearing this flag. The majority of people erroneously wearing this flag, they're reverse racist if we want to be real with it. So it certainly wasn't that. People have no idea how I had to show and prove extra. While people are trying to show and prove that they, as a black man of God, I'm being put into ciphers where people don't want to respect that I'm a black man. So I'm way behind and got more obstacles to fight and hurdle over. So anyway, how are we supposed to take this kind of mantle this way? You just take it and you continually gauge yourself and see what is missing. You make sure that ego is out of it. When I started, I don't say who's my black seed, my brown seed, my yellow seeds. I just teach. I don't count how many students I have. I just teach. When I can, I write down the students that come and I keep track of them because I want to make sure that what I'm giving them, though, continues to be useful and adds on. But those are the only statistics I ever took. Everything else I did not. My main statistic I took was if I missed a day or not. And in these 24 years that have passed, my average was about 2 days off a year. You know? It only got that high because COVID was very difficult. You know? Very difficult. And really the aftermath of the mandates, because I lost a lot of jobs because of the mandates, you know, and I wouldn't take a vaccine. It's just what it is, you know. But you're totally right, Kasim. You know, the elders were there teaching what they know. There's such a gauge, you know, and I think sometimes we get lost in also the obsession with right and exact. Right and exact at its most vigilant means you know what's right, but you're always working to see if it's exactly exact. That there is a possibility that anything could be wrong. But a lot of times we use it to say, this is right and exact, and you will do nothing else. This is the way right and exact. And then we've taken it to be a hadith where we deal with the Father only did this, and that's what it is. So what happens is that there's no space for us to develop. There's no space for us to show and prove development, because if anything veers off the written path, it's no good. So what we really are is a lot of tradition. Sometimes that's not enough. I'll pause for a minute to all let people build and throw some mathematics in there, how they see today's mathematics. Um, like for example, the, we don't some people don't go into mathematics and they'll say the father didn't do it that way. And there's a lot of elders that are valid that say, they weren't doing that. They weren't borning mathematics past the 20th onward in the month. And I was told this by certain elders that I value and I respect. Um, what's interesting with that is like the major elders, the firstborns, first fruit, so many that taught me Medina and Mecca. They had me show uh, born the day's mathematics. So I think people look at that as like we went away from the path of what was exactly there, right? Inexact. But I see that we just expanded a great tool. And I think that we are not looking at supreme mathematics enough as a teaching tool. You know, knowledge culture. That every single moment, some type of knowledge is being added to the way of life that you live and is actually altering it, fueling it, allowing it to be a living, breathing thing. Right. Peace to the God, Bo and Rahim. Peace to Jay. This is living mathematics. The knowledge constantly infusing itself into the way of life. This culture is the signal points of what real power is. Because that knowledge is infinite, it can be ever accumulated. And so one's way of life can be ever expanding because of the knowledge. That is the power in it all. Whenever your way of life is strained, there is more culture that is necessary to it. Right? Very crucial. Very crucial. Give me a moment here. Please. Chuck West stepped out, so he's not here right now. He can come back later. He should be here. I don't have the key. I don't do any of that stuff. Yeah. Let Bob. Oh boy. All right, so last session I didn't go through a particular plus lesson. I went through the election, and as we slowly see, like, Trump is already gathering a heinous, cabinet, you know. Nothing good could happen with Mark Rubio or any of these people that he's putting in. But it's important that now we know Now we know. We know more. We know who we're dealing with. We know what it could be. Excuse me, it's cold here, so I'm yawning. Um, What's interesting is that I think I was successful in my code. um, I talked about the same medical atrocities and with the pandemic and all that, my disagreements, all of that, etc., and laid out some of these proofs again. And again, this was not a running point for the candidates. They didn't even care about this. Um, the only one that really addressed it was actually Trump, because by taking RFK vicariously, he's addressing that. So it's very interesting to see what will happen. But I addressed it, unlike the what was it, the November, no, the week before elections. That one was taken down. That video was taken down by YouTube / Google, because they censored me. You know what I mean? Give me crap about medical misinformation when they're the ones that have been lying. So it got taken down. So I used a little bit of a code, and it worked out. I didn't get into anything. So you know, so that's interesting. I learned something, right? But other things. I think I went through the build awareness square. That's a foundation of the main things to deal with how you knowledge yourself. What are you eating? How are you training? What are you reading? Doing the knowledge too. What are you writing? How are you speaking? Communication, and how you share. Those 5 things as a beginning point to knowledging how you move. Right? Those 5 things are a great start to seeing how you engage the world. Okay. All right. So I'm going to see which one, because I gave the understanding build that was going a little ahead, so I wanted to go back a little bit. As we get near to holidays and stuff, we'll build on that. I probably will go. I think it's I probably go through the health protocol, which I have yet to update. Oh my goodness, there's so much to update it with that I feel like it's so out of date. The one that I have and the one that I've given, a lot more detail and stuff like that. Nothing's wrong in it really. I think the last thing that was wrong was, like, I was doing this protocol, handing out this protocol since 2000. So at the beginning, probably the biggest error was that I had soy protein powder in there. But remember, if you really know, if you know, you know, in the 2000s, there was no vegan protein powders that were not made of soy. And if they were horrific, horrific. I mean, they tasted so chemicalized, and it's not like the soy one was so much better. But those cause a lot of bloating and everything like that. So the soy is not what you want to deal with. Processed soy is no good, you know. And I suffered for that because I had a lot of bad training sessions, feeling bloated and awkward. Never really understood what it was, because I would have the protein shake post workout, but it's affecting the very next workout, the rest of the day, etc., etc. You know, and the effects of it will be felt tomorrow's training. But when I do the health protocol, I will have a short little training protocol in there as well. Yeah. So what's next? Right? Let's see. I'm looking here. Yeah, I think this one's next. Let's see. I'm just trying to do it in a logical way. So my laptop is very slow, but I don't know why this is not. Oh, okay. Now it's okay. All right. Let's see. All right. So this plus lesson is called the Justice Curriculum. All right. This is something I wrote because, and it's described in the preface here. The study of many disciplines does not make man righteous, yet it greatly propels the ease by which they may realize themselves as such and build greater. Just as the most oppressive societies have fortified themselves with the study of many disciplines, our study of a versatile curriculum, lots of different things, will develop our framework of ideas, potential, and self-awareness. Those three things, just as an aside, if you ever gauge yourself and you see that you're not developing either of these three, something is going on. If your self-awareness, like awareness of your body, about your mentality and your control over it, what you can do, what have you been doing, right? If these things aren't stuff that you're adding new and being like, wow, this is the way this goes, that's the way that goes. And again, my martial arts background and lifestyle is something that where I become very aware of my body, also of my mindset, right? All of these things are important. That's also why we build with the day's mathematics, because we're practicing what's our mindset when it comes to dealing with this mathematics. Is it sharp? Is it focused? Is it lackadaisical, repeating the same build, right? Is it unimaginative at moments? Is it unoriginal compared to you, right? Like you're just repeating what you have always said, right? And it becomes your shtick. It's unique, but what if you become stagnant, right? If you become stagnant with it. So all of these things are to check in your self-awareness. The other of the two things are your ideas. You know, what kind of creative ideas are you coming up with? Are they creative ideas? Are you even engaged in anything that would be creative of sorts? Right? What are your original ideas? You know what I mean? Or are you just pontificating? You know? So all these are all things to take note of. You know? Very important. And the third thing that I had written down here was the idea of the potential. They say man lives by purpose. You have to have a purpose, and certainly being a 5%er, there's great purpose. You know what I'm saying? And piece of 793, you know, and when you see when you see your purpose fulfilling and becoming and possibilities, this is when you're seeing potential. You should always be seeing potential in what you can do. You know, sometimes even if you're doing the same workout, like you don't even notice how you're changing things as you go along. It's potential, the potential to achieve something of a high quality for a long period of time. The potential to achieve something at the highest quality for a long period of time. Now, could this not be literally life? To achieve great things at a high quality for a long period of time. in this long period of time is life, right? So if you're not developing a framework where it propels you to have ideas, lets you dig into your self-awareness deeper, or you don't see a greater potential in yourself, the possibilities of new great things is not within your grasp. You've made a big, you're missing things. You're missing things. Something is missing. And that's why in this justice curriculum build, I wrote this down because the following are 10 subject areas are beginning in the broad range of study that are necessities of culture. I call them necessities of culture, but this list can go on and on to things that are not even necessary, but just broaden your mindset, right? And we should be doing that, right? We should be doing that. We need to be doing that. Okay? So, again, if there's any question, I'm looking at the chat questions. So if anybody has a question, I'll be happy to answer it. Okay. And if you email at me at Sunez97 at gmail.com, I'll send those to you as well, this plus lesson. So the first one I have is hygiene. Okay. Hygiene. In a supposedly civilized, advanced society, hygiene is often at its lowest. Possible reason for that, aside from the awkward change it is for the Caucasian westernized world, is that we do not view it as someone properly, view it as a constant study. We may adapt certain measures as they come to us or flow with social mores, We may adapt certain measures as they come to us or flow with social mores if say, someone properly uses a tissue to open the bathroom door that reeks with diverse fecal matter particles. However, we must constantly protect ourselves from the environment through a developing awareness and knowledge of hygiene practices and study to fortify the home with less chemical pollutants and cleaner rituals. Okay. You know, as far as hygiene, if you do regarding chemicals, if you do one small thing, instead of, spend maybe a little bit more, just a little bit, it's very little. It might be the same price. It's really about the same price, but maybe an ounce or two less. And buy, let's say, an all-purpose cleaner in your house for your bathroom, kitchen, your whole apartment. Buying an all-purpose cleaner that's from a vegan, healthy company that doesn't use chemicals, like Seventh Generation. I like that. Right? Not using fragrances though, but So that's the first one, hygiene. Always be looking into hygiene. A lot of times you may get sloppy when you're by yourself with your hygiene. But a lot of times the accumulation of germs that overcome the body is not because you're weak in a germ. It's because you're being unhygienic and giving yourself problems that are unnecessary. Let your immune system fight the battles without you adding on to it, because it will be capable of battling. All right. Second subject, music. While we may enjoy the latest pop craze and shuffle 500 ditties on our iPod, music. I said iPod. I'm reading it as was. This is an old plus lesson. I said iPod. Music is a language of resistance and expression that our people, oppressed the last 6,000 plus years, have developed wonderfully. To love music is to learn of it. To expand the palette of sounds we hear also broadens the ability to hear and develop new ideas. In the societies we live in, with so many original people from all over the world, we ought to know these other languages they have expressed themselves with, beyond the radio's narrow dialect. In New York City, we have at least Dominican merengue, Dominican bachata, Puerto Rican salsa, Puerto Rican bomba, Puerto Rican plena, Cuban son, Jamaican roots reggae, the so-called African American soul music, jazz, blues, And for all these original peoples, the most lyrically expressive musical genre to date, hip hop music. Okay? Right. I had written down some names here because they'll, I wrote Rakim, Donny Hathaway, Miles Davis, Johnny Ventura, Willie Colon, Bob Marley should all be heard. And it's just basic beginners in each of these genres that you need to go into to just start you off. Expand your palette. News, number 3. Something that, boy, more important than ever. From the politics of your immediate residential area to the world stage, we must seek our legitimate news sources and study them. We must know more than the paltry 15-minute broadcast 11 p.m. tabloid specials. Here's one of the ways to understand the people we love and seek to build with. You got to do a lot of research on current events. There has to be more research, though, on just this last few years of the pandemic and the mandates and all that. We have to be doing the research, okay? So, the fourth one, science. The sciences of biochemistry, quantum mechanics, and mathematics are key to a knowledge of self. Working to study sciences slowly and usefully will always give more sense to the universe we have created. This is the study of our inner workings. How can we not study this daily? Okay? Keep collecting. Ask me for science books. Ask me for things about this. Ask me for good news sources. Okay? There are plenty out there. Okay? Health. The diet is something to constantly work on from the inner to the outer. If the proposed healthier lifestyle is adapted, a vegan living foods diet is embraced, then one can no longer eat ignorantly. What I mean is this: if you can say, I don't think, for me personally, you're not healthy if you're eating meat. There was always some possibility of wrong going into the body. However, if you ever decide to be, and this is the power of being a vegan, to be a vegan, even vegetarian, but be vegan, no meat, no dairy, is to now be demanded of yourself that you have to be a real thinker, a real student of health protocols. Now you don't have the opportunity to just eat whatever you feel like eating. You have to really know what's in the food, especially when you're not eating milk and dairy, because those are collectors of germs. They bulk you up with fats and germs, and it gives you muscle, and you don't really notice it until it's too late. But once you become vegan, though, you become detoxed of all those barriers of fat through muscle, fat in the muscle, all that stuff. You're immediately thrust in the world where your consequences of what you eat are felt more immediately. And so you have this responsibility no matter what. Okay? We must learn what things we may be putting into our body, how to prepare them so that we may have supreme control, learn to express ourselves through our food with recipes that make food taste great to us. All right? The sixth one is training. The training that one chooses must be studied. Brothers must study how to increase the muscle mass without loads of whey, right? Whey is protein from milk. The water extracted from milk, cow's milk, is whey. And that gets powderized into a powder. Okay? But we have to increase our muscle mass without loads of whey and sugar to merely mold fat. If we engage in a sport, we must learn more of the sport and what its benefits are. We must also learn to strengthen our bodies and avoid injury. It's as simple as that. Okay? The stronger your muscles are, the less prone to injury you are. Okay? Whew. Again, if we have any questions, just let me know. Every time I do these, everybody's really quiet though, but it's cool. All right. Number 7, identity. The study of, and look, I wrote this before this whole wave of trans and LGBTQIA plus, whatever. The study of identity is a key to a successful knowledge of self, so that a title of God on earth and a righteous name are not merely fancy claims. We must work on noticing belief and letting it go with and without heroic partners. Right? Again, we talk about our identity. We talk about how the 85 are wrong with their ways, but we can be wrong too. We don't have real detail about that. Why is the identity important? You should be asking yourself this all the time. Studying the ways of others, studying the research, all of that. The eighth is pedagogy. The science of teaching is also in the science of learning. Learning how to teach, we must also learn how we actually learn. Why do we remember it? Why do we look at it? Or do we gauge? Why do we understand it? How insightful? How much insight are we really drawing from this? Right? What pitfalls we may be prey to become more evident the more familiar we are with the many techniques, right? The pitfalls we may be prey to become more evident the more familiar we are with the many techniques of pedagogy, right? The science of teaching. Right? Also, learning to share sincerely is in the judgment of what ought to be shared. This is to be studied. We keep trying to share what we want to share. We are not here to do that. It's always better when you are sharing what ought to be shared to the best of your ability, to the best gauging point of your own. Okay? I think this person could use this. Right? Then you give it to them. There's a pedagogy to that. When? What are the signs? What are the cues? Right? Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Very important book. You know what I mean? Also, they don't seem like teaching books, but books that are about the mentality of the 85, mentality of the original man, whether they be Black American, whether they be Latino, whether they be Europe. Very important. Right? 9, talent. We must, this classroom has always been about drawing out the students' talents. And when you're researching talent, right, the point here is that we must engage in many disciplines to find and hone our talents. It is through our talents that we will create sharing for the betterment of all, right? It is through our talents that we will create sharings for the betterment of all, right? We have to. We must be aware of our talents with a humility that does not overrate them, yet does not underplay them as well. Real gauging. We don't have time for all that. Abnormal humility, right? But also the pompousness of things. That's no good either. So the 10th thing is love. Right? Love. The relationship of family, the creation of God on earth, is the reality of all things. We must study whom we share our deepest intimacy with, and not merely expect to be loved by development of self-pedagogy. All right? All right? I'm going to take a lot of pauses, though. I am freezing here. But the most important, though, is that I want people to understand this, that we kind of get bored learning, and I have a huge library, over 6,000, at least 6,400 books. And so these subjects are something to be studied, something to be analyzed, So we must study whom we share our deepest intimacy with, and not merely expect to be loved, but develop self within a person, into a person worthy of love. This is done with studying the ideas of intimacy, relationship, and sincerity. All right? Very important. Very important. And there's more to add to this, though. But these are the really launching points. And if you're dealing with my build awareness square, it kind of goes along with that, you know? So it matches with that, right? I'll repeat the names of all of them. Like, look, these particular new curriculum of subjects: hygiene, music, news, science, health, training, identity, pedagogy, talent, love. I mean, that's, you get that all down, you've begun to do something profound. There's 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 never something not to be acknowledging. And the only way that you should have a blockage and difficulty in doing the knowledge to more books, more film, more research, etc., more hands-on training, etc., is if you're not out there creating yourself. Right? Right? But make these guidelines, study these different things. We have to be diverse. We really do. Right? So that's the plus lesson. I would like to share it with you all via email if you email me. And I would also like to get what you think should be added on as major components of a curriculum, of an immediate curriculum. That's what I say, it's an immediate curriculum because there's so much that could be shared as well. I just wanted to put the most major things. That's why I called it the justice curriculum. 10 justice, but yeah. But there's that plus lesson for this week. Let's see, next week I'm going to go through the justice build, and that's going to be a good one because we're going to use real examples. And then the week after, I'll definitely be building about Thanksgiving because I love to build and how I hate Thanksgiving. It's a holiday I don't like the most. It's the most fraudulent, the most detrimental to our mentalities. It's not even the Jesus Christ Christmas stuff because at the very least, the devils had to keep themselves alive, their societies, by reworking Christmas so that it's for children. First, by giving them candy, that was the original tradition that was instilled, and then the month. So that one is not as bad because at least we're dealing with the children and we're dealing with people's fantastical beliefs and not actual beliefs of history, which is what Thanksgiving does. But that's for Thanksgiving and that vitriol were there. If you go online, you can even see me giving a lot of vitriol toward that as far as thinking, as far as what we ought to do and everything. Okay. All right. So again, I'm here for another 10 minutes. If anybody has any questions, I got like 13 people here. So if any of you ask any question, I will answer it though. Okay? Even if it's a big question. I will get it. I will get it. All right? And I'll say things like, we're trying to do extra stuff like training and reading. I can't tell you how much training and reading are affected by the quality or the lack of sleep, Certainly the quality, like you can get all your time sleeping, but if it's not a good sleep, you'll be done too. But like last night, I only could sleep. I usually sleep about. I literally sleep like 7 plus. It's a little bit over 7. I don't know why. It's what it is. It's not perfect. It's a little bit over 7, which is good because some people need 8 and stuff. And I got one student, it's a great student. He needs like 9. So I'm like, I mean, the way our lives are, it's nearly impossible to get to 9. I would never even be able to get there, and also train. But with just 1 hour less of sleep, it impaired not so much my writing, my reading, but certainly the difficulty of my training, speed. My speed was not as quick, you know. I usually have a very good speed even as I'm past fatigue. But it was tough today, and I learned a lot. Again, what did we learn by it? And we study more things, you know. So as we're gaining, like, practicing how you rest, where you get your rest, all of these things. Take heed to this, though. Sometimes, like, you have like an hour to read and you keep falling asleep. Take a 10-minute nap. Like, literally, like, yo, you only have an hour to read? Take a 10-minute nap. Just 10 minutes. You come back and say, listen, I cut my time reading. I only got like 45 minutes left, right? Because I spent the first 5 dozing off. So I said, listen, I'll take a 10-minute nap. But I still have that time that I have to stop. You will read. It will be so much better for you. You will read better. You will read faster. So it's important to always be gauging our body, to always be gauging how we feel, right? Have a real conscious relationship with the entire facets of your body. Know them. Know your mind. If your self-awareness, right? And your self-awareness is really by acknowledging your culture, right? That's how you're gauging your power. You're acknowledging your culture. Well, how strong are you? Well, I'm only as strong as my culture. Mine, and what is backing it? What knowledge and depth is in the culture is essentially the power that you have. So what power are you wielding over yourself and even over others, though, right? Because it could be good or it could be detrimental. Right? So it's important. Super important. Right. All right. So again, I got some of you still in here, 12 of you in here. You can throw me a question, throw me a build on Supreme Math. And that's peace. You know what I mean? All right. Also, one of the goals for this classroom is to everybody be engaging in something creative. If you're like, I didn't get into this class and I don't want to learn this knowledge of self, part of it is to, now I have to make a record like Sunez or anything like that. But look, everyone should be able to write enough in their journals that they have enough to say, I have a worthy book of some sorts. I think everybody with knowledge of self should have the capability to write a book memoir of themselves. That doesn't mean that you write it because you may not want to share it with the world. You know what I mean? Even my own short memoirs that I've written, I don't really delve into my personal life like that. Even though if you accumulate every single class I've taught, I have shared a lot of my personal realities in life. But it's not a focus, though. And certainly not with students. Right. So, at the last moment here, peace of God, King Kamal. I just seen that right now. Peace of the God. Go back. I gave a plus lesson here like I'm doing every week. I talked about some things of a conversation I had that was jarring to me. But if you're going to be a 5%er that shares the truth that they know with the 85, today's degree and the 1 to 40, you cannot wait until you are ready. You must make yourself ready. Now. Not tomorrow. Okay? Somebody wants to be an artist, though. It doesn't mean that the immediate first song that they do, they release. But it means that they go in there with the mentality that they're going to release it. They're going to share it to the world. We must have this mentality in the things we do. We cannot be scared and say, listen, I got knowledge self, but I only want to represent myself. Like I said, I jumped into this at 24 years old. Okay? At 24 years old. And I said, listen, it has to be done. It needs to be done. This next generation of now, me, has to start now. And I didn't start now. I started then. And I am a late bloomer as an author, as a writer, as a martial artist, even among the gods and earth. Like technically among gods, I got knowledge very late too, getting it in my early 20s. So once I get the opportunities to go in, I go in. I go in and we do it. You know what I'm saying? So it is important that you take that mentality and do your best to gauge what the qualification is and be the qualification. Qualify yourself by making sure, yes, this is necessary to know, and I'm going to be on the path to learn it. But at some point, the writer that wrote was not really a writer. The MC that MC'd was not really an MC. Right? The reader that sought to read monumental works was not really a reader yet. It's always the same. When are you not going to be afraid anymore to step into the build that must be done? To build is to go into the unknown of your mind. You are creating the unknown. You cannot have fear in that. You have to learn. There can always be fear, caution, reality, a fear of caution, and the possibilities of doom. But we cannot let it impair us. And that was really, it's the whole point of my build today. Okay. All right. So, all right. So I'm going to let everybody go. I've been here over an hour. I said I would leave at 8. No questions here. You have my email. If you want to build deeper, email me. We'll share each other's math. You can text me at all time. If there's a time you need to build me one-on-one, we'll make that time, okay? All right? So until next week, peace.